Once upon a time, in a country not far, lived a state president who felt more like a Tsar. In his castle he sat and was deeply in grief, because his country's in danger, that's what he'd believe.
Svetlanochka, what can I do to solve this situation? I know it just as well as you that our Russian nation is being sieged from all around. See this encirclement? A fast solution must be found to bring this to an end. In '92 our union proud was busted and dissolved, and still they want to snuff us out, sure NATO is involved. They promise us they wouldn't move beyond the old frontier, and tell me now, need we more proof? Their evil aim is clear. In all the years since we agreed to drop the Iron Curtain, they fucked us up so hard, indeed, my Russian butt's still hurting. They buy up former Soviet states, we see our friends diminish. Where Bonaparte and Hitler failed, now NATO comes to finish. In Kiev they now ran a coup, chased out my friend Viktor. Ukraine's now run by fascist crew, and order is no more.
Volodya, if you're worried so, then gather all the guys. Let them come over, have a talk, and drink vodka on ice. And when the 7th glass is drunk, I'm sure you'll find a way to solve the issue and get matters back into array.
I guess you're right. What have I left? If sanctions really start, the setback will be massive, and for us it will get hard. I've spoken to the Chinaman, if he could buy our gas. He told me, sure, if you make price like 50% raise.
And the Kremlin thus called two main statespeople in. They both hurried to Russia for the talks to begin.
Well, здравствуй, comrade Yankee boy. It's good to have you here. How is it in the lion's den? But no, let's be severe. And you there, what's your name again? You represent EU? I asked for statesman, actually, but be welcome too.
Yeah, Vladdy, thanks for having us. You know what's going on. Your war is unacceptable. It's dangerous and wrong. Invading other nation states and stealing foreign soil is bad, and we just can't accept if you start such turmoil.
I hear what you are saying, yet it sounds a bit bizarre. I can't see why you think that we have taken it too far.
Well then, let's show him, Kath. Mr. Putin, do you think we're that stupid? Stop taking us for fools. Return the territory you looted, start playing by the rules. How could you think it is cool to send in the military? But we didn't send no one, that's just in your fantasy. Well then, who sent the mysterious soldiers? Wasn't me, with no flags on their shoulders. Wasn't me, your troops marched at me no halt. Wasn't me, and you think it's not your fault? Certainly.
You break the Constitution and your media spread lies. The things you claim don't happen are in front of our eyes. So if you do not quickly act to set this issue right, we'll sanction the shit out of you till the red square turns white. Do you agree, Kath?
I must check what all my homies say. Hi Angela, what do you think? Is sanctioning okay? Oh what? You rather disagree? Get Cameron on the phone. Ask Tusk, Francois and Rajoy too, and that new guy in Rome.
Słucham, pronto, oui bonjour, sankcjonować natychmiast podatki, siamo d'accordo, wszystko non possiamo farlo ancora,
Well now, Barack, it seems we'll have to further talk it through. We want to sanction, but meanwhile we rather don't want to. So please proceed with what you want, but I must tell you kind, in Europe we must still discuss to make up our mind.
There suddenly the Russian man screamed out and stood up large.
What is this shit? I want someone who's actually in charge.
Now keep it down, yo Vladimir, told him Barack Obama. We must respect this lady here, sit down and make no drama.
Well, honestly, I do not mean to be offending you, but just like you as diplomats, I say, fuck the EU. Take her away and bring me my good friend Angela here. She speaks my language, knows my heart, with her we'll set things clear.
And so Merkel flew in from Berlin all the way, but it wasn't delightful what she had to say. Yes, propaganda lightning war, as Germans once knew well. Our passion was to annex countries, but I have to tell that our country quit those ways. We learned from history. So Vladimir, with what you did, we strongly disagree.
See, in the 90s we agreed on reunification of Germany, but in return the deal was that no nation in Eastern Europe was to join the NATO. You said yes. You broke that promise 18 times, so you can kiss my ass. And if you didn't realize when you did break that oath, that this just had to piss us off, you're stupid, blind, or both.
But what's your problem? NATO's not directed against you.
As Russians see that differently. We don't condemn you, but if you come to our front yard with military, you stress us. If we bring nukes to Mexico, will you just say, how precious?
But Vladdy, what you're talking about, you get it totally wrong. It's not a game of influence spheres. Ukrainians just long to be a part of the free world.
I don't mind if they're free, but NATO flags on Russian soil, on that we won't agree.
What you call Russian soil is territory of a sovereign state.
But culturally it's close to Russia and we share one fate.
Historically, Ukraine joins regions both from east and west.
And now you want to take it all. To us, that is conquest. 'Cause we have interests, families and business in Ukraine, as well as our Black Sea fleet, so please, switch on your brain. Why don't you people realize that you expand your sphere of influence, you push us back and you're the profiteer. You're overtly imperialist on economic terms. If Ukraine joins the euro market, make a guess who earns.
What do you say? The NATO is about democracy.
I disagree. Its character is firstly military. So when you asked Ukraine to join your belligerent gang, to us that was encirclement and all alarm bells rang.
Come on, you can't be serious. You're like Albania. You must be suffering from persecution mania.
You may think Russia's paranoid, but we remember well how 27 million died when Hitler brought us hell. So we know if we don't do all to strengthen Mother Russia, some lunatic will come along for sure to rape and crush her.
Vladdy, come on, that in the past no one thinks of aggression against the Russians, but you see that when you take possession of foreign soil, however truly Russian it appears, in Eastern European states you wake dismay and fears. 'Cause after 45, when Soviet forces had prevailed, for almost 2 generations half of Europeans you jailed.
That maybe wasn't brilliant, but those were the days, you know. Yet that era was corrected. We let all these countries go, and we stick to that agreement. We don't threaten anyone.
Mr. Putin, stop pretending. It's the opposite what you've done.
For the first time since the World War, force was used to move frontiers.
Really? What happened in Serbia? It's back less than 15 years. The secession of Kosovo was the outcome of that war.
With respect, but these examples really couldn't differ more. There, a genocide was happening. On Crimea, no one died. Your invasion was illegal, as well as the plebiscite.
From the West we learned that laws ain't worth the sheets they're written on, and that you don't need to give a shit about them if you're strong. How can you criticize we disrespect the borders when your drones do much the very same each day in Pakistan?
You can't compare that.
Yes, I can, and I'm not finished yet. Have you forgotten all about your aggression on Iraq? You went to war without a cause. Half the EU joined in. You showed us that when money talks, all laws go to the bin.
We overthrew dictatorship, that war was not in vain. Or do you really think that someone liked Saddam Hussein?
Of course nobody liked him, but the point you do not see, people accepted him because he brought stability.
But we brought freedom.
Nice, now people vote every 4th year. But what's the point if for the rest of time they live in fear? Plus you could argue Russia also brought the voting right to the Crimean Russians who just burst out in delight.
That's cynical. Your referendum's illegal and you know, you spurned the human rights of Tartars whom you dealt a blow.
Oh, cut out that hypocrisy. You're talking about human rights. Well, meanwhile, in Guantanamo, you're not the noble knights.
But we have values.
Sure you do, and we can all agree. Values are great, but Western states use them selectively.
Not true, values are the touchstone of our foreign policy.
You don't live up to that standard. Where's your credibility? You can back any dictator as long as he makes you rich. But if they start to turn on you, well then you flick the switch. And suddenly Gaddafi, who had long been your good friend, when he denounced allegiance, got bombed down into his sand. You claim to spread democracy, but what you really bring is chaos behind any country's doorbell that you ring.
You err. Do you know why we won the Cold War actually? 'Cause we're attractive. People wanted to get rich and free.
But these days, your attractiveness is going down the drain, 'cause now your country stands for exploitation, death and pain.
That just ain't true, 'cause you can see what happened on Maidan. People stood up and risked their lives. That's showing us again, as well as many other cases like the Arab Spring, that our way of life is great and still inspiring.
Well, that is one side of the story, but the other is that statehood in Iraq and Libya ceased to exist, and Maidan was paid by Brussels.
Russian propaganda lies, like your false reports of refugees, atrocities and spies.
Well, we maybe twist the truth, but Western media ain't better. Fascist troops seized rule in Kiev, and you just ignore that matter.
You're exaggerating strongly. That was not a fascist coup, but our footage was one-sided. On that I agree with you. Still, the neo-Nazi forces are few and don't matter much.
I don't care, 'cause that regime is illegitimate as such.
Yanukovych ran away,
'Cause he was fearing for his life.
and the parliament confirmed the government.
Just to survive. Many deputies were threatened to be killed if they refused to support that band of robbers.
Dunno that, but we accuse Russians of the same procedures in the Crimean remapping. If Ukrainians go to vote now, Vladi, what you think will happen?
Your invasion gave the right-wing parties huge grist to the mill. Public mood's now patriotic, and your annexation will further weaken the pro-Russian side in Kiev. You don't gain. You might get a little island, but you lose the whole Ukraine.
Что такое?
Mr. President, there are some people here. They claim to be Ukrainians, and they say they would appreciate if their opinion was heard too.
What? Why? You don't actually ask Ukrainians about their opinion. That is absurd. You tell them what to think.
But these ones claim they have an own opinion.
Impossible.
Let him come in.
Ja, herein. You'll regret this.
America and Europe, you must help us. See this man? He is an evil dictator. Our countries get destroyed. They oppress all minorities, our people. They exploit. He takes away our freedom with his oligarchic clan. They undermine our civil rights. Corruption makes us shiver. They only fill their own pockets and don't think about us. We citizens have to fight back. There is nothing to discuss. And therefore we now have just one big message to deliver. Babies of tolerance!
Take them away and prepare them for special interrogation in my hotel suite, if you know what I mean.
Now what was that?
Presumably the nicest pair of titties I've seen in a long time. But anyway, you need to take the Russians seriously.
We get it, Vlad, but with your methods we just disagree.
As the Russians want security, that fact you can't ignore.
Alright, we must work something out, cause none of us wants war.
But Russia's a repression state. That's still a serious matter.
Well, it's not that bad seriously, and are you so much better?
Post-Soviet states are mostly run by cliques of oligarchs.
Not worse than Wall Street's 1% of top financial sharks.
But Europe
Cuts its welfare state and money for civilian employees, but for banks you have 450 billion. You have your own unscrupulous, bold financial elite, but when it comes to social funds, you turn your head in greed.
we are a free society.
Sure you are, so much smarter. You don't exploit at home, but overseas you're even harder. Of course, as Russians also know that one standard is nice. But you taught us that double standards raise the value twice. A big share of your wealth is based on third world exploitation, where children's hands need carpets, coerced labor in plantation. When Saudis sell you their cheap oil, not one critical word. They're Muslim fundamentalists. Now isn't that absurd?
We do a lot for fair trade and third world development.
Yeah, that's a good excuse to keep blame from your government. But meanwhile your big companies sell guns to conflict zones. And governments obey because they're dependent on your loans.
Your fairy tale, good east, bad west, is wrong. You should be wiser.
I don't say Russia's good. Just that you are not better either.
So what is your suggestion how to find a compromise?
As first step, stop to claim you're good and we are the bad guys. Between two sides with interests, an arrangement can be found. While between good and evil, no solution will be sound.
I see our common interests in the examples you gave. Democracy is nice, but sure too much of it ain't safe.
And we don't want no change in the transcontinental trade.
Just as we want to keep up our authoritarian state.
So now, since finally it seems we found a common case, the tricky task is how do we evade a loss of face? Our international stance that we condemn you was made clear. If we just say, well, it's all right, then weak we will appear.
Well, obviously the only way is through close cooperation.
I have a plan which won't mean less than total transformation of the world that we know today. Come on, I'll brief you in. And if you like it, maybe from the scratch we can begin.
In this way they kept talking until night and day part, and the vodka helped soften their obdurate heart, and the Tsar's plan indeed bore a pleasant surprise. Of the three-faced convention did a union arise.
My dear fellow Americans and people of the earth, this day will be historical, for it will see the birth of an all-new alliance. That's right, NATO is no more. With this, forever banned will be the menace of a war.
This transatlantic union, forever it will be, from Vladivostok to LA.
Tell me again, who's she?
With this cooperation pact for military and trade, the cornerstone for freedom and prosperity was laid.
The Ukraine crisis too is solved. I proudly can present the new conception we devised for coping with that land. It's bridging East and West in one big country culturally. As core part of our union, it must keep integrity.
But to accommodate its different interests we devised, the plan that it will be united but be federalized.
And so its western part can sign a treaty with EU for travel and exchange, while the southeast does not have to.
It's free to join the Russian-led Eurasian Federation, while once more I must emphasize, Ukraine stays one big nation.
And Kiev stays the capital of both, that's the idea, which leads us to the focal point, the status of Crimea.
Politically it stays with Russia, but I guarantee it will enjoy the highest status of autonomy. That includes full protection of minorities as well as open access for every Ukrainian national.
And to watch over and assist Crimea's future fate, its government will henceforth be a great triumvirate. To see that the peninsula gets best development, we wisely chose the most exquisite envoys we could send.
The first, for good relations, Putin's special bosom friend.
A guy with whom both Russia and Europe will be content.
Our officer for energy, of him you all have heard, the former German Chancellor, Herr Gazprom, Schröder's Gerd. Now the most delicate issue, the case of minorities, especially Muslim Tartars, feel a little ill at ease. He studied Muslim faith from Baghdad down to Hindu Kush. As Tartar officer, the only George W. Bush. Hey there, how you doing? Now let me introduce to you the final chosen man. Anti-corruption minister will be no lesser than...
It's me, Silvio! Just one question, cause I read this and now I can't keep quiet. Is it true in Russia they have a free pussy riot? And this way peace was saved. Vladimir reached his goal. The wise man picked up work soon in Simferopol. And so each one was lucky, 'cause everyone gains. But however, one very last question remains.
Why didn't anyone ever ask opinion of us Ukrainian people? This is about our country, and all was decided over our head.
We're gonna bring this treaty down! TT terrorism! Wah!
Thank you.